It's July now. We're in the heat of summer, so it's hot. I had to ditch my corduroy vests and button-down shirts for this fine SS Normandy Hawaiian shirt. It's been a few months since our last devoted video update. We've had a number of people asking, where'd you guys go? We're here. We've still been here. We've still been working. Things have not stopped. We're sorry for the radio silence, but if we'd updated you in the last few months, it would almost seem like we were taunting you. We'd be working on the same monotonous parts of the ship and developing tech and assets for the game that we can't show you yet. That would leave you guys in the dark and only wanting more, and unfortunately we wouldn't have been able to give you that yet. We have been working hard, and we also went to Titanic at the Grand in Michigan, so on top of those vague updates, we would have been traveling again for a few days. And we didn't want to add insult to injury by telling you about our time abroad. I will tell you about Titanic at the Grand later in this video, where the whole team had a grand time. But right now, I got some juicy updates for you that we actually can show you. We've entered into a very exciting partnership with a AAA level video game art house named 5518 Studios. They were brought on by my friend Richard, who is the producer I've been mentioning in the last few videos. This is a very big deal. 5518 is a very high-level production house with a great reputation. They've worked on many games that you know of, from Call of Duty Black Ops and World of Tanks to Apex Legends and even RuneScape. Having them working for us gives us a very, very impressive leg to stand on when entering into talks with developers and professional distributors. So for the last month, they've been hard at work on developing the first NPCs for the game done on a professional AAA level. You guys have seen NPCs in the past. We've shown you Captain Smith, we've shown you Thomas Andrews, even a little bit of Bruce Ismay. And these were great, not knocking them. But these were done by people like us. No offense to us. But we've been entering this project as Titanic enthusiasts who want to make a game. Now we are building the partnerships with people who know how to make real games. So we are making these NPCs now with the same people who make Call of Duty and Apex Legends and World of Tanks. The first one they've been working on is Chief Telegraph Operator John Phillips. There's been an excellent back and forth almost on a daily basis for the past month with 5518, our production studio in LA, and our own internal Titanic Honor and Glory team. We've walked 5518 through from the concept art of Phillips with historical reference photographs and all the way down to the uniform and how he looked, through the style that we want to approach with the game. This deserves a whole video, to be honest with you, talking about the style approach that we're taking with the NPCs. We don't want to go with perfect photorealism for various reasons, which, like I said, I could devote a whole video to. These guys are rigged, animated, and 100% video game ready. We're already putting animations into the characters. We're still working on fine-tuning the graphics. It's a work-in-progress model, which I unfortunately had to rush images for to get them into this video so we could release it on time. But they're still working on it, they're still working on perfecting it, but these guys know exactly what they are doing, and I am very impressed and very pleased. Very shortly, we're moving on to the next NPCs, First Officer William Murdoch. So I'm going to be completely transparent, open, and just completely level with you guys. I want to explain the roadblocks we've been facing with this game. This is a long process. You guys know that, we certainly know that. Every time we get a step farther, we become more devoted to bringing this to completion. There's 4 roadblocks that can very easily sum up why this is taking so long. We didn't know about these roadblocks at first, but through speaking with professional studios and distributors, we've put together this rough list of things standing in our way. Number 1, brokers. We need people who can negotiate, bringing in the finances and the contracts and all the legalities of being invested in. Well, check. We met them on the Queen Mary about 1.5 years ago, and we've been working with them ever since. The second roadblock, we need a producer who knows how to do it, has done it. Check. He and his studio have a perfect reputation of always finishing every single one of their projects on time and on budget. And when we brought him into this project, we were kind of expecting him to say, this is beyond your scope. This is a little too much for a video game, especially on that kind of budget. But no, he actually saw eye to eye with our vision right from the start. He saw exactly what we want to do. He saw how little compromise we were willing to give on history, and he agreed with it. He says this is going to set a new standard. And in fact, I think we can raise the bar even further. So that has been very exciting. So the first 2 roadblocks, check and check. Number 3 is a distributor. This would essentially be the marketer, the publisher, the company that is going to take the final product, advertise it, and bring it to you guys. Number 4 is the financial investor. Now, catch-22 on the last 2 roadblocks. Distributors don't want to back it unless you have the investor. Investors don't want to back it unless you have the distributor. So there's been a very fine dance of going back and forth and saying, well, we've got this person tentative. Would you be willing to distribute? Then there's very often a lot of interest, and then it goes back and forth, negotiating thanks to our brokers, and our producer is also quite a broker himself. But like with a lot of projects, no one wants to take that first step. Understandably so. One thing that's been holding up these last 2 steps has been the game itself. We have beautiful environments. We even have animations of the ship going down. But where are the people? Where's the user interface? Where are the sound effects? How do they know this is not just a very nice environmental walkthrough? The end. Well, that's where the producer comes in. And for the last half of year, we've been working with him and his studio, who's been doing this for next to nothing in terms of cost. And now 5518 has come on board, and they've been doing a great job and for a great price because they believe in the project. So with these NPCs that we're developing, it's only going to be the first couple of NPCs because that's all we can afford right now, we're going to put together a tech demo. User interface, character interactions, animations, all of that stuff, you name it, objectives. Unfortunately, it's going to have to stay internal for now. But I'm very much looking forward to showing screenshots and maybe even a little bit of video to you guys as soon as that's possible. We're aiming for August for that one. But that's moving. And then we go back to roadblocks 3 and 4, the distributors and the investors, and say, look what we've got now. Come on, people. I should also add that some of the tech being developed by this LA studio with this game in mind is so groundbreaking that even the government's kind of interested in it. It's really cool how it handles the processes as well as dialogue and conversation interaction and handling with all the different variables that go into a video game. It's very exciting, and when this game comes out, using this tech and using the authenticity of the Titanic and the graphics that we're putting into it, it is going to blow people away. And this tech demo is going to showcase a lot of that. It's very exciting, it's very time consuming, and it's very stressful. In fact, one of the stress reliefs for me, to be honest with you, is making these historical videos, the ones that appear on this channel every once in a while. The Titanic Basics series or the historical telegrams. We all enjoy working on that. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but first let's hear from Matt about the modeling of the ship.
Since the beginning of this project, we've attempted to keep you guys up to date on our progress via deck plans and some sort of color coordination. I've just updated the plan. There's only a couple of areas on the plan that are actually gray still. These are areas which none of us on the team have bothered with, and for good reason. You see they are areas for coal and peak tanks forward and aft. There's no immediate need for us to create these spaces, and really they are super industrial and techy. They're going to be all metal and steel beams, and kind of boring compared to everything else. You'll have access to these areas in the tour mode, but you really won't be going there in the game. Or will you? So we'll probably be leaving these for last. Next is a big color, red. There is a lot of red going on in this ship. Red here symbolizes areas which someone in the team, myself, Kyle, GeoChris, someone is modeling. And actually it can also mean this is an area which is being researched. For example, I have made the bulkheads of the reciprocating engine room, which I needed to do when I made the bulkheads around it on E-Deck. But I am not going to make the actual engine room. Now that room is red because that room is still being researched by Parks and Bill and will be modeled by somebody else who has more experience making engine and mechanical parts. We do have someone working on the engine spaces and modeling them, but that's hush-hush until more develops. You'll see a lot of red in the lower decks and around the bow and the stern. Again, these are areas which are arguably less important, like all of the many dozens of second and third class cabins low in the ship, many of which are actually unique. I have stated before that as we go along, we can often make one component of a cabin, like a bed or a wardrobe, and then just copy and paste it all around. But we can't just make these cabins and copy and paste them. The shape of the ship tapering in affects the bulkhead, so each cabin is different. Sometimes the cabins in the stern, oh boy, they are a headache, and I'm avoiding them. The galleys, food stores, and pantries, They are red and still will be until the research is done. There are many unique and fascinating Edwardian cooking devices that need to go in them. Finally, there are a few period cabins which we need Geo, our master digital craftsman, to finish and finesse. I just added yellow to this month/year's progress plan, and I guess it's kind of the same as red, except yellow means that this area used to be green, but now research has made me go back and change something, so that area is no longer green. Speaking of green, green means we're quote-unquote done with an area in modeling, and it is waiting to go into the engine to make it look all nice and pretty. There really shouldn't be a color green that has no spaces truly 100% finished before being put into the engine, but I'll talk about that when I finish the colors. And blue. We've taken the models, and Kyle worked his Kyle Unreal magic to bring the space to life, as we always say. Lighting and shadows and reflections, all that is baked in the oven, and Kyle has brought Titanic back to us. We're trying to get as much into the engine now so we can get a good idea of what she looked like. While indeed, when a model is given to Kyle to be put into the engine, it is more or less finished, and the research on that space has been decided upon in concrete. More often than not, that will not be the final time it will be put into the Unreal Engine for this project. When we made our first demo, we started with the first class reception room, Scotland Road, and the lowest levels of the grand staircase. Since then, there have been exciting new developments to what we believe Titanic looked like in these areas and how we do things in the engine and modeling. Now with Titanic, we're not talking about just little changes like fabric on a chair, but significant changes that require a total rehaul and removal of certain spaces and re-importing. So while it took us forever and a day to make these areas years ago for the demo, in theory it is now easier thanks to what we've learned. But we still have these spaces marked as blue on our plan. Uh-oh. So we can't change it, it's blue. We gotta listen to the plan. Plan equals life. While I do make fun of it, we do appreciate everyone's patience as we recreate this gigantic ship. Please understand why we update the progress plan when we do. We're actually doing a lot, even if it doesn't seem like it. I'm still modeling the ship, Kyle's still sticking things in the Unreal Engine, Tom's always working on the story, Chris and Nico and Gio are working on small little details you'll see, and the rest of the team are working out of love for the ship and the passion for the project. But our updates won't come in the form of a colorized schematic of the ship necessarily. They might come in a new video about the White Star Line or the china used aboard the ships. It might be a new image or two on our website, or it might be a brand new YouTube series of the well-known Titanic historian.
We also have some nice progress on Southampton, but more of that another time. We've expanded to new modelers and even animators, all people who believe in this project and want to see our level of historical authenticity be realized in the Titanic. This has enabled us to work on the many cabins, as Matt was just talking about, and even the engine rooms. But one thing I'm really excited about is a little pet project of mine. I've always enjoyed making these real-time syncing animations that appear on our channel, and to be honest, even though they look like a distraction from the actual game production, they're the thing that's bringing in the actual attention to this YouTube channel. The real-time syncing of the Titanic, which everyone hustled phenomenally on, the real-time syncing of the Britannic, same story, and the SS Atlantic. But we want to make more. But the problem is the game's getting very busy right now. We've brought on 2 more team members. And that is what they want to focus on. They want to focus on working with us to make more of these animations. Just these animations for the channel. Keep the interest coming in for the game, help us with the publicity, and help us tell more stories from history and share them with you. Now next week, we're having a special thing here on our YouTube page. We did SS Atlantic Week in the past. Well, now we're going to do White Star Line Week. We're going to talk about the White Star Line history in all different ways. The history of the company, the ships that were involved in the company, and even touch a little bit on the pre-Ismay White Star Line, the chartered clipper ships. Well, you're going to see some of the first animations from these new team members in it, working on the White Star Line fleet. I won't say too much about it, but I will give you a quick lineup of the week. On Monday, July 8th, we're going to have the history of the White Star Line. On Tuesday, July 9th, we're going to have the evolution of the White Star Line fleet. And for the rest of the week, we're going to be talking about various connections to the White Star Line as well. On Sunday, July 14th, we're going to have a live stream, hopefully with a historian on the White Star Line, where we can just sort of chit-chat back and forth about some of the underappreciated White Star Liners. Be sure to tune in. And as always, these videos will be available long after White Star Line Week and will stay on our channel. This is very exciting for all of us. We have almost 175,000 subscribers here on YouTube. Aside from videos about the James Cameron film, our page has the most views and the most subscribers out of historical Titanic channels. One way or another, it's an obligation that's been thrust upon us. So we feel it's our duty to make these videos about the history of the White Star Line. As long as they don't step on the production of the game, we want to make as many stories about the White Star Line, mini documentaries about other ships, and tell this all with you. There will be new 3D printed models coming soon. The back order is starting to be alleviated. It's great, but each one of these models takes about 11 or 12 man-hours per model. They're all hand-painted. They're 3D printed, but they're hand-painted, and within the first couple of months, we sold over 600 ships. We've so far fulfilled 65% of the orders. We're catching up, and the next batch is right about to go out. Fortunately, the orders have slowed down a little bit, but we are going to be releasing new ships very soon. Titanic at the Grand in Mackinac, Michigan was a fantastic weekend. Myself, Matt DeWinkler, Kyle Hudak, and even Zeno Silva, who handles the 3D printed modeling and shipping of the orders, we were all there for 2.5 days in Mackinac, Michigan for Titanic at the Grand. We gave a presentation on our project, which we filmed, which I'm hoping to upload very soon. And the very exciting thing is, we counted over 20 guests who came out to the hotel just to see us. It was a huge honor, and we all had a great time. We're hoping to see more of you there next year, but more information on that as it gets closer. Speaking of meeting up, in August, our team is going to be at the Pigeon Forge Titanic Convention. Information about that is available on our website in the updates section. We hope to see you there.